Dear Diary, I was ambushed in my office tonight. I believe the term is appropriate. Mr. Tusk of the Lotterberg Group showed up in my office after almost everyone else had left. My new secretary conveniently forgot to tell me about the appointment, and I had been through a long and exhausting day trying to contain the national crisis we're in, ready to leave for home. Tusk, the cocky bastard, made his points very clear, although I do have to give it to him that at least he showed some class. He believes that he and his group have the power to destroy me, and he offered me money for a preferential contract for his company. Apparently, things had been a lot worse under Alfonso than I imagined. I knew the capitalists would stop at nothing to pillage and plunder the country and impoverish our people for their own gain, but it seems the president was not just enabling them, but effectively had sold the office to them. We urgently need a special commission to bring all those corrupt dealers to justice. Unfortunately, a direct attack on the corruption and on the oligarchs will have to wait because we are dealing with a national crisis. The economy remains unstable, and yes, graph has gone down again. So after our first little improvements, things do not look as good given the continued militant unrest and blood in the streets. So that needs to be dealt with, but we do need a anti-corruption commission as soon as possible. Let's go through the news and let's see what comes up. We've got the Holsort Post. Foreign Gasum engineer salaries under scrutiny. Gasum wasn't the ones running the offshore drilling in the Gulf. We did have some economic problems or some energy problems there. Recent revelations about the salary disparities within Gasum, one of Swordland's largest corporations, have sparked public interest. Particularly, it has been revealed that foreign engineers, many hailing from Kinal and Anraka, earn significantly higher wages compared to their Swordish counterparts in other companies. This disparity highlights the challenges Swordish engineers face in an increasingly globalized job market. Now, this is unfortunately, I would almost argue this is unfortunately a reality of things to a degree, especially when it comes to let's say qualification. So if there was a sufficient number of qualified engineers to do these things, barring corruption, of course, but if there was a sufficient number of qualified engineers to handle these things nationally, then we wouldn't be having this problem. But if we need to attract foreign talent, we have to pay them competitive prices, which means we are now competing in an international jobs market directly with significantly wealthier countries, which are paying higher wages, which means that if we want to get talent from there, we need to pay competitive, unfortunately, which then leads to these sort of disparate situations where we import engineers for higher prices from abroad, while we're not paying the same wages to the local talent. Gets down back to education. So if we have a shortage of qualified people, we need to invest in education, which coincidentally had actually been the very first directive I had given. The leader of the NFP, Kesaro Kiebener, him again, the National Front, has suggested that the new constitution should expand executive powers, adding fuel to the debate over the possibility of reforming the 29 constitution. We are reforming the 29 constitution. He pointed out the current dire situation of Swordland and emphasized the need for a strong leadership. Now, of course, he does have, even if he's not in power, he does have vested interests in a strong state because that matches ideologically. The current constitution suggests the division of executive power between the cabinet and the president, who has no immunity before the courts for acts of treason and unconstitutional behavior during office. In the system suggested by the NFP, the president would have absolute immunity before the courts, and it is the president who would chair the cabinet. It is not clear yet whether this suggestion would spark further debate in the reform committee with the PFJP and the USP. The PFJP proposal had suggested that the president should have no presidential decrees might result in the abolishment of the assembly and take the country to an early election, despite the independents' counter-proposal to give a similar power to the parliament to take down the president, but that detail was not shared with the press in yesterday's press conference. Okay, I might have to look into that a little bit further. I'm assuming we have some internal debates, but let's review that quickly. So, from memory, we did make some suggestions in the meeting with or in communication with the Richter, I think was his name, from the PFJP. Yeah, Franz Richter, and we agreed on a great many things. So, but I will have to review what the actual suggestions were. Give me a second. Okay, I had to look that up because I was back in episode 6 and it's been a while. But we agreed on 2 points with the reformists. One of them was that the veto power of the president needs to be curtailed. And the other one was that the judiciary needs to be removed from their overriding influence. So what the NFP is basically proposing now, we haven't really talked about the immunity parts, I believe. So this is their position towards the constitutional change. Now, we need I think 166 votes in the we need 166 votes in the National Assembly. Technically, we would have 200 votes, but that's provided all of the USP and all of the PFJP is actually voting for it. We may have the votes of the independents. I don't know how strong the actual reform factions are inside. So I don't think I had. The other problem is we need 6 votes, I believe, in the judiciary. We clearly have the reformists, but we would need either all 3 centrists or some of the old guards. And the old guards are most likely going to vote against us. So that was sort of the problem. So now the NFP comes around and they suggest to give the president absolute immunity before the court. I presume while during at least during the terms of office, we did talk about curtailing the powers of the court, so that might actually fall into line. But the PFJP proposal suggested that the president have no presidential decrees. Should have no presidential decrees. I thought we talked about the veto, not necessarily about presidential decrees. Has suggested that the president should have no presidential decree. This sentence is a little weird. Should have no presidential decrees might result in the I think there's a that missing here. The PFJP proposal that had suggested that the president should have no presidential decrees, commas would help as well, might result in the abolishment of the assembly and take the country to an early election, despite the independents' counter-proposal to give a similar power to the parliament to take down the president, but that detail. Okay, so this paragraph I am a little stumped about. So the PFJP has proposed that that the president should have no rights to create president. This is the first I'm hearing about this from the news here. So why am I hearing this in the whole sort post first, and why has this not this sort of critical information about the position of the PFJP's reform committee not landed on my desk yet? Lucien, where is that information? So if I read this correctly, the PFJP suggested that the president should have no right to make presidential decrees, but that, according to the newspaper at least, might result in the abolishment of the assembly into an early election. I don't necessarily see why. Why would that break the assembly completely? All right, this is weird. I'm gonna ignore it for now. I'm sure something. The key part of this is that the NFP actually wants the president to give the president expanded powers, but as much as I would like that, at least temporarily, we can always potentially organize that through special measures, special temporary measures if need be. But I'm on board with the with the reformists in there, that we need to curtail the power. The critical part is to get rid of the power of the obstructionists there. All right, so that's the Holsworth Post, which is generally neutral towards me, unlike Swordland today. So let's see what the Lochhaven Times has. The LUS, the labor union, calls for corporate responsibility in Narbel. The Labour Union of Swordland, led by Horton, has made a strong call for corporate social responsibility in Narbel. Actually, this is a good opportunity for me to address one item that was mentioned in the comment recently, because somebody pointed out that certain countries most definitely have these sort of large labour unions that are across things. I was more coming from the German model, which was mostly based on the old guilds system, which had been very trade specific prior to the existence of larger labor unions. And as such, generally unions are trade specific, although there is a sort of umbrella organization as well, which often kind of handles certain things. But in general, if it comes to things like strikes, it's usually specific unions. So you have a train drivers union, you have like a heavy industry union. You have all different kinds. So that was kind of my mental model I came into for this. But apparently, yeah, we have the labor union, one singular, which makes things a little easier because I only have to negotiate with one person rather than with 20 different groups. So it has made a strong call for a corporate social responsibility in Narbel. Narbel was in the over here. We have a situation report to read there, but first let's do this. Made a strong call for corporate social responsibility in Narbel as income inequality and public service deficiencies exacerbate. LUS demands local corporations step up to aid the community. It's time corporations prioritize people over profits. Good luck with that. So, Horton in a public statement. It's not just the state's duty to arrange welfare, but it sort of is, but a shared responsibility. Well, that's kind of in part what the state is for. I see where she's coming from, but we can work together on this, to be honest. The statement urges corporations to invest in public health, education, and housing. I disagree with this, actually, because what we get is a fragmented system of public services where we have competing public services potentially even, where the government services do one thing and corporations do another thing. Because if there's one thing you can be absolutely guaranteed is that they're not going to do that for the good of the people. Because a corporation's main responsibility is to improve its value towards its shareholders and to make a profit. We want to change that. We have to change some very fundamental things, like nationalize them. Then even then, I would argue against this. So we should have a clear separation between corporate responsibility and state responsibility, because otherwise we end up with things like suddenly corporations becoming slumlords and exploiting public housing for oppressing their workforce. You know, like, oh, you want to strike? Let me see who owns the house you live in. Oh dear, this appears to be me. Well, if you decide to strike, I might not be able to afford the house you live in anymore. Wouldn't that be a shame? That sort of thing. So, no, Mrs. Horton, we should not be doing that. I vehemently disagree. I think this was new as well. Reform demands gain popularity. Demands for reform are gaining more popularity than ever. Latest public opinion, it would be great to have a date on these things. Latest public opinion shows that the majority of the Swordish people want changes in the governmental structure that were established after Seoul's military coup in 1929. The public trust in the Grand National Assembly and the Supreme Court is at an all-time low. Yes. While rumors of reform talks are coming out from the Assembly, it seems unlikely that without complete unity, none of the parties would be able to lead such a proposal. In order to change the constitution, the proposal must collect at least 150 signatures and then reach the needed 166 votes. If the proposal passes the Assembly, it is still subject to another voting in the Supreme Court, as well as judicial review, which still stands as the bigger obstacle before the parties. Yeah, I think we might have to do this the other way around. We need to find a way to curtail the Supreme Court before we change the Constitution, which is sort of a catch-22 in its own right, because if the Supreme Court can eliminate me for whatever reasons they see fit, like, for example, trying to abolish the Supreme Court, then this becomes this becomes a bit of a problem. So we need to husband our influence, and I think working with Richter of the PFJP and getting him to even though we have politically different views might be working in our favor. So whatever influence we can get. I would prefer not working with the nationals on this, ideally. But maybe we can find... I don't want to exclude anyone necessarily, even though they are sharing certainly a fair amount of responsibility for the current unrest. If we have areas where we have overlapping interests, then at least temporarily for votes, we might do so. But we will see how this goes. The Radical, my favorite newspapers. Workers' Party Solidarity March. The pro-minority Workers' Party of Bludia, a rally in the Bludish majority city of Suzerain, attracted a large audience. The gathering was heavy on flags and banners whipping in the rain and chill wind as the gatherers declared solidarity with Circus. Among the speakers at the rally was Mansoon Leke. Leke? I'm going to go with Leke. A Bludish member of Assembly, who is standing as the leader of the Independents in the National Grand Assembly. Although not a member of the WPB, he was the leading figure of the event. Of course, they're looking to get political capital out of the situation, which is fair enough. We will again foil this war plot that was set up by the Solace ideology. What war plot? In reference to the series of conflict and bloodshed during Sol's terms as president, which claimed thousands of Bludish lives. Yes, we also have an actual war plot going on with the Rumborgian threat. We will come out of this tunnel of conflict. We will not only win against discrimination, we will win the truth. When we have all together foiled this trick of polarization, our songs of peace will spread from Islam, there was the famous incident, will ring out even stronger all over Swordland, he added, in reference to the Islam incident of 33, which triggered Sol's persecution of Bludish minorities and the formation of the militant organization, the Bludish Freedom Front. So, a Workers' Party of Bludia, these guys we have to work with, and Mr. Leke here as well. We will work together. Because one of the core issues that we have to deal with is equal rights for the Bludish minority and equal opportunity, and removal of the extra constitutional order from the governor in that area. Bludish citizens targeted. 20 Bludish citizens were attacked by a group of people suspected to be members of Young Swords during a peaceful protest to support Circus. The group was overwhelmed and the local police force couldn't reach the protesters to protect them amidst the chaotic crowd. The attackers ran away without getting caught, and 11 of the victims were hospitalized with critical injuries. Yes, we need to put an end to the violence. That is first order of business. And preferably, we can talk to the leadership on both sides. So the NFP most certainly has probably the most influence over their militant arm of the Young Swords. And we might have to chat with the new leader of the Independents as well and see if we can get a common agreement among everyone to stop the violence in the street. Because the alternative is martial law, effectively, unless Lilias can put things down. But with Lilias, I have to be careful that she doesn't take the opportunity to arrest everybody who even wears a red T-shirt or anything out of principle. So, that's that. Anyway, we do have a report out of Narbel as well. So since we're here, let's read the situation report. Ministry of Defense reports that the situation along the border is getting tense. Yeah. Rumburg's Southern Army was sighted training close to our borders and did not respond after we issued a radio message. The Chief of the Armed Forces, General Kruger, reports to have increased patrolling duties along the northern border to signal readiness. I think one of the priority items really on my list is to start negotiations with United Contana for a potential military association. to deter this, because if we're waiting too long, then I don't know if they will be willing to do this while we are in active conflict. This sort of thing needs to happen before active conflict breaks out, because otherwise they will effectively sit back and wait to see who comes out winning and then deal with the fallout afterwards, rather than getting directly involved into an active war zone. So this should happen sooner rather than later, in my preference. And we have a report from Palais, I believe it was. Palais, thank you for the comment section correcting me on that quite a while ago. Palais issues a warning over Rizian actions. This is all monarchies and wars between houses, sort of thing. In a formal address, the Grand Duke Axel Reinhardt of Palais issued a cautionary statement regarding recent Rizian activities. Rizia is, I think, the state north of them. The Grand Duke expressed increasing concern over the intensifying border disputes and clashes over territorial waters and gas fields. There was problems with that before, I remember that. Assessing Palais sovereignty, he called for respect for international laws and peaceful dialogue to prevent further escalation. He urged the alliance of nations to mediate the situation, emphasizing the potential risks these tensions could pose to regional stability. And that's actually another vector we need to look at. The Alliance of Nations clearly has a very League of Nations feel to it. Although, at least from the timeline, we would be very well in United Nations territory. But so it might as well be that. It might that be as well. This might be another vector for us to highlight the threats coming out of Rumburg and to demand a strong condemnation for what it's worth. But if we are in fact in a Cold War scenario between two major military blocs, then I don't think that these international organizations and international law really have much weight remaining in things. All right, that was it in terms of international bits, I believe. So we've got a few items to look into. We've got all of them in the Holsord region. Now let's begin with Anrika. Okay. We have to do the finalization of the L1 railway contract. Oh yeah, that's going to be fun. Oh, Mr. Tusk. This will go to the best offer, not necessarily. And if that happens to be your company, then that will be your company, but not because you've been bribing me. Let's read the report first. One of our agents, acting as a young swords member, had an encounter with two members of the local police force in Anrika, Alson Boller and Vic Nezer. According to the report, the policeman tried to bribe the agent to burn down a store that belongs to a known Communist Party member and to instigate further violence. We have detained the policeman on charges of corruption. This is a good start. So we are actually starting to work, and it's really no surprise. So generally, you find that law enforcement tends to. In Germany, we say law enforcement is blind on the right eye. Because they tend to prefer persecuting left extremists rather than right-wing extremism. So it's no surprise. But obviously, this active instigation here, corruption is almost the wrong term for this, unless there was someone behind the policeman. But you would say that if the nationalists were behind it, they would literally have asked the young swords to do it directly. Why would they need the policeman to do it? So this sounds more like a political instigation of violence rather than corruption to me. I don't see where the corrupt part comes in there. It would imply that somebody paid them to do this. It could be that they have been paid by foreign agents in order to instigate further unrest and to act as provocateurs. So in that case, corruption would certainly. In that case, I would call that treason and espionage. And that is probably a hangable offense, if I'm honest. So I'm not entirely sure where the corruption charge here comes from. But what's good is that we start seeing that we start seeing the beginnings of a crackdown. I'm still waiting for an actual commission, official or unofficial, under what was her name? My cabinet, Nia Mornia, my justice minister. So ideally, I would want her to lead that. Okay, so that was that. We'll have to deal with the railway decision, but let's check first what's up in Conriat. We have to meet with Coronti as well. And what's up in Holsword? We have to decide on an economic relief plan. So 3 things to be done. I'm not looking forward to meeting Mr. Coronti, especially after the relatively explicit threats that Mr. Tusk has made last night. And he has very specifically mentioned Coronti as part of as his good friend and partner in crime, I would almost say. So I think we're going to look at the economic things first. Let's begin with the finalization of the L1 railway contract. In the city hall of Anrika. We arrive in Anrika by train. Very fitting. After being greeted by crowds of cheering citizens and the local government officials, we headed to the city hall. We were here for a significant meeting about the L1 project. Several construction companies sent their representatives to the city hall. Even though Lilias Graf couldn't make the meeting, I had Simon Holl and Gus Manger by my side. Gus is my rural development, and Holl is my Minister of Economy. Holl, I did like him. He's very much a free market capitalist, but he did agree to enact things that went against his conviction with giving it his best effort, despite it going against his conviction. And I very much like this sort of approach. Professional, that is. All right, let's see what we're getting ourselves into here. Simon, I came by train yesterday and was a little uncomfortable. Besides starting our economic recovery, this project will make the journey here much more pleasant. Yes. I'm glad that you're finding a personal stake in this project already. That is a given, but we'll also see improvements in everything from logistics to growth. You made the right choice for sure. Thank you, Gus. This is actually important because coming from Gus as somebody who's looking at the rural development and agriculture, obviously he probably would have preferred purely on that professional level a project that would have influenced the north. But in the end, we chose the project that would improve the economy for all of Swordland, and we will find ways to make life better for the northern section as we go. But for now, we did have to, given the situation, we had to look past ideology, and we had to take the project whichever was promising the most economic development, and it sounded like the railway was doing that. And then we just have to make sure that the economic development positively impacts the life of the regular people and doesn't get corrupted by the oligarchs. I don't necessarily trust his economic plans. I hope so, Gus. I do hope so. And this project will help along my rural development plans by attracting new businesses to the area. Okay, so he is talking about the rural development of all sort, which is not what I had in mind, but anyway, it works out. According to my estimations, the new railway will give about 50,000 citizens from the greater Holsword and Gelsland areas employment. That is great, but we do have to do something for the poorer regions as well. But for now, getting the overall economy back on track and getting out of the recession is paramount, because if the recession continues, no matter what we do, it doesn't help the poorer members of the poorer citizens in the long run. And the basic there still corruption, lack of education, lack of economic opportunity, and other things. Okay. What will it take to stop the recession? Okay, we can ask Simon a few interesting questions. What kind of end results do we expect? Well, I can sort of see that coming out of 50,000 extra jobs would increase the. Let me quickly check back in my notepad. What do we had? 16% unemployment, right? So we let me run some numbers real quick and see if I can figure out what that would entail. Right, so assuming that Swordland has a population of about 37 million, I couldn't find this anywhere in game, but it was mentioned in the comments, so I'm going to rely on that. We actually have a pretty large or an unusually large or unusually aged population. So we seem to have a relatively low birth rate because we have an adult population rate of about 72%, and with a labor participation rate of about 60%, which would be common for the period, we end up with, let me do that math quickly. Yeah, so we would end up with about 16 million people in the labor force, in the potential labor force, and 2.5 million unemployed. Because I can't get, I have to sort of napkin this because I can't find these statistics anywhere. So the 50,000 people would be a drop in the ocean on the overall unemployment, which means we need the knock-on effects from this. So it's great that we get that, but we need, if we are to make a serious dent into unemployment, we need more. We need much more. So we need to get out of the recession and get that. So I think asking him in general what it will take to stop the recession, let's get his opinion on that. So I can sort of see the end results that we can expect. So if we get about 50,000 direct employments out of this, this does reduce unemployment, but only marginally. So we would be looking at hopefully economic growth, GDP growth, which would then have knock-on effects of further. But to me, it sounds like this is not going to be enough to stop the recession. This is just the beginning. I agree. We will have to follow this project up with several other economic investments. I agree as well. Which is dependent on our government budget, right? And this is generally the problem. Yes. So you see, if the government budget is based upon taxation, and taxation is primarily based upon the workforce being in employment, in gainful employment, and able to pay their taxes, then generally in a recessionary period, we also have the problem that our government of the income part from taxation of our government budget is shrinking. And we're already running 136% debt to GDP ratio, which is not great. And we're having relatively high inflation, which actually helps the debt situation somewhat, but does not help the budgetary situation necessarily. So yes, we may have to invest money that we don't have, unfortunately. We will see how this goes. Simon searched through the documents he was holding and found the one he was looking for. I have the overview of the companies here. Okay, let's see. Simon handed the files over to me. Well, let's look at the files then. I looked at the files. 3 corporations were listed: the Swordfish State Corporation, Underhole Construction, and Taurus Holding. Now let's quickly refresh our views on things. So the Swordfish State Corporation, this is it's the most honorable company in the country, long and solid track record of accomplishing critical projects. Efficiency of the corporation seemed to have dropped to the recession and the somehow corrupt management structure. It's still considered the safest bet for big projects in the minds of many government officials, but has corruption problems. Now, construction has always had corruption problems. So we could go with this. and it is a government corporation, so it's not privately owned by the looks of it. So this would be a good contender, I believe. We've got Underhall, which is obviously this is obviously part of the Lotharberg Group. They did manage the Holzort Central Station, but they did that by violating workers' rights. Or we could get Taurus Holding. What is Taurus Holding? Taurus Holding is a new and entrepreneurial private company that uses cutting-edge construction technology from Arcasia to reduce construction costs and prices. They recently began taking bigger and riskier contracts in several industries, including construction. Taurus also deals with shipyards, bridge works, and training aircraft hangars. The company is known for its great employee perks and high union membership. It is considered much more open and competitive compared to the usual Swedish corporation. They are known for their port expansion project in Benfi, which was completed with half the budget. This might actually be... Okay, so I think Underhall is out. So we could either go with a safe bet of the Swedish State Corporation, which has a track record of, both accomplishing projects and being overall an honorable company in the country. So they would be adhering to workers' rights legislation. It is a state-owned corporation. That doesn't necessarily make them better than a privately owned corporation, but it means that we have potentially some more direct influence over, let's say, corrupt management problems, and I'm not happy about that. Alternatively, we go with the private sector here, and give them go with more modern technology, and what I like about it is that they're both using Arcasian technology, which appears to be the cutting edge of in the technological area, and they have high union membership. So if they're fully unionized, that means that they're not doing this. So they're not running efficiency on the back of worker exploitation, but they're running efficiency or productivity, maybe not efficiency, but productivity on the back of technological advancement, which is not something that the SSC is necessarily going to be doing, because this is more of the traditional old school state corporation. I'm almost leading, paradoxically, I would almost say, towards Taurus. If it wasn't mostly because of the union membership. So if they agree to be fully unionized, then and pay their people well, then this can be a great direction for the sort of Volkslandian socialism that I'm looking towards getting. So if we can support this kind of company in the private sector, this brings up competition for the SSC to a degree, where we need to clear out the corruption at first anyway, because otherwise we'll end up funneling government funds into corrupt management. So since we haven't done that yet, I'm almost tempted more towards leaning this one. But let's see what we're going to know here. Gus has reviewed the listed corporation and wrote down some notes and ideas. Let's see what he thinks. Which corporation should we talk about? Well, we'll talk about all of them, but let's begin with the Swedish State Corporation. The respected Swedish State Corporation, also known as SSC, founded in 1891. Just because it's been around for a long time doesn't necessarily mean that it's any good. It's the main state corporation tasked with running the day-to-day construction services of our country. Agreed. SSC is the primary reason why our current infrastructure is outdated. We need more adaptive construction companies. Well, it is a state corporation, but it's always a budgetary question, right? So I get the gist. I get what Gus is saying here. They are sort of set in their ways, and they have been getting the safe government bet, which has led to stagnation to a degree. Let's see. However, this would fulfill your initial election promise of using a state-dominant planned economy to improve the bleak recession situation. That is true. Although that's not sort of that. yeah, that's not what I had in mind. I had in mind that we nationalize the things that are good, not necessarily funnel things into things just because they are state dominant. Let's see. They have experience, knowledge, and manpower for a project this size. I'm not sure about their efficiency, though. Yeah, that seems to be the problem. There's also the fact that construction times are long, which is mostly due to their outdated methods. The lack of a dynamic attitude is disappointing. Yes, just because you are a state-backed company doesn't mean that you have to just sit there and stagnate. So yeah, the lack of dynamic attitude is somewhat disappointing. I have no great admiration for the SSC, but their track record clearly shows completed contracts with thousands of employees who have experience. That is also a true thing. According to the preliminary calculations of the SSC, they would need more resources to finish a project of this size. The thousands of employees is a point, right? So we could treat it in a way as a labor creation measure. In the German term for that is Arbeitsbeschaffungsmaßnahme, which literally translates to work acquisition measure, something like that. So effectively a state organized labor, simply because they are relying more on manual labor, we'd have more people in employ. However, on the flip side, they would potentially take longer, and yeah, it would be more costly to get that project done. All right, let's see what else. Okay. Yeah, I'm on the fence about the SSC. I generally like that, but and I generally agree that we should be moving more towards a planned economy. But I'm not saying, and this is unfortunately not easily expressible in game. But I'm not saying that all economic activity must be dictated by the government, and only economic activity dictated by the government must be enacted. Instead, the government should be setting economic priorities and should be given guidance towards the economy as in which direction we should be developing. We should also be having state-owned infrastructure and basic support services companies. And here the SSC comes in as the company, but at the same time they obviously also need to be somewhat competitive. So I'm still on the fence about the SSC. Let's see. How about Underhaul Construction? Well, we'll talk about it. A real estate and construction giant was founded in 1925 and expanded during the economic boom of the 1930s. Picking this corporation would go against our planned economy policy, I agree. The CEO of Underhaul is Chris Schaar, the mayor of Conriad. He sold half of his shares a few years ago, but seemed very eager about the L1 bid. I had the chance to work with Underhaul Construction in Holsort. They took several contracts for the central station renovation and excelled at it. Yes, but at a cost, Gus. I would like to hear your thoughts, Simon. Yeah, let's see what he's got. I think that they have been doing relatively well in the private sector, where they are dominating the construction industry with successful projects. Nonetheless, they subjected their workers to conditions below our working standards during the Holsort Central Station contract, which is troubling indeed. We can't be having with that. Yeah, working conditions must be respected. This doesn't inspire confidence. Let me just point out that some of the workers were Agnolian and Vecek. Technically, Swedish labor laws didn't apply to them. No, Gus. My friend, we are not doing the, oh yeah, these weren't real people. These were just immigrants. We can exploit these to our, the laws don't, no. That backdoor I'm not allowing, absolutely not. Having worked on the renovation project, I can say that the conditions were not bad. Extra effort was needed to finish it on time, which they did. That is all. Okay. Underhaul has specifically mentioned their solid track record and highlighted that they do anticipate to go over budget, but that they will finish on time. Okay. Okay, so underhaul construction would cost -2 government budget. I think the other one was -1. Oh, I don't see that anymore. But a game actually, I don't know if this is a bug and if it's supposed to be telling me that. But I think the other one was -1. Yeah, I'm not sure about underhaul construction. How about Taurus Holding? Taurus Holding was founded in 1946 and is owned by the entrepreneur Gerald Feis. It is a new holding company whose subsidiaries use cutting-edge technology from Arcasia to reduce construction costs and prices. They are known to provide for their workers who are part of the labor union of Swordland. They are a very interesting corporation, especially because of their innovative construction methods, but I don't think they're suitable for large projects like these. Okay. Yeah, we'd be definitely running a risk with a small company like that on such a... why should we pick Taurus? Yeah, let's give me a reason. Taurus has completed fewer projects than the other companies, however, they're slightly faster and cheaper. It won several awards internationally for being one of the fastest growing and advanced companies. Okay. Pros. Let's pro-con this. Pros. They are progressive in their use of technology, and at the same time, they're heavily unionized, so they're treating the workers well. On the flip side, they are a fast-growing company, so they will have organizational issues potentially, which significantly increases the risk for the project. And they are, on a fast-growing company, there's always there will be friction inside simply because you're growing so quickly, which also increases the risk for the project. So generally, I would be in favor of giving them contracts, but I think for a contract that is this critical, I think the lack of experience is potentially a bit of an issue. It won awards for growing quickly and being advanced. Yes, that is all nice and shiny, but the problem is that the problem I have with that is the lack of experience. Yeah, exactly. And why take such a risk now? We need to play it safer with companies like. Okay, Gus. Gus, do you have any? Now this is okay. The first time I was overlooking this, but he seems to be. The first statement was, oh yeah, underhaul is actually fine. They were just exploiting some foreigners who don't really count legally. You were involved in one of Underhaul's projects, and now you're shilling Underhaul to me. That is beginning to raise some red flags with me. So I think I'm going to talk to Simon a bit more about this. The project manager from Taurus mentioned that they would be able to finish the project with the allocated funding. They're the only company who found the budget sufficient, making them a cheaper alternative. So, it's interesting. It's very interesting. So we've got three companies. We've got the SSC, which everybody seems to agree that is sort of this slow-moving, state-owned business, which is in dire need of modernization and has corruption problems. We've got Underhaul, which is to no fault of the company itself, but which is part owned by Tusk and has been known for anti-worker policies, which is what Gus is shilling for some reason. And we've got Taurus, which is what obviously Simon is very in favor of, given that he his area of specialization is the Arcasian economic development, and he sees parallels obviously in that company. And he does have a good point that we did make the promise to again, not exactly what I had in mind, but we did make the promise of a more planned economy. And SSC would be effective in having a lot of people on the ground with a great amount of experience. So Gus has been arguing against SSC in terms of, they're the reason why everything's falling apart in the first place. And he might not be completely wrong there, but I do wonder at this point if he has some form of vested interest with Underhall here. Because pointing that out twice, I'm a little suspicious. Okay. I think Taurus is worth considering. I'm honestly torn between SSC. Like Underhall's out, but I'm torn between the SSC and Taurus. It's worth considering. Time to make the decision about which company to award the railway contract to. So the SSC would reduce my government budget by 1 additional. Okay, so I think did we start out with 7 government budget? Let me double check that. Okay, so we did start out with 7 government budget, which means that one has been already spent, which means the SSC would ask for another 1. Underhall would be asking for another 2, and Taurus would say that they can do it with the current budget. Now they say that. And again, this is where, for a government mega project, it always runs over. And yes, they might come in with more modern tech, but they don't have the track record for this. They're growing very quickly, which means that they're running into a lot of inefficiencies eventually. They might, given this is such a massive project, might further their growth, which leads to further inefficiency, which might lead to problems down the road. No, I think I'm going to stick with the SSC, despite the fact that we can deal with the corruption, hopefully, in a way that further embezzlement is not tolerated, and we need to deal with corruption anyway. This is just. It's an interesting choice, but it's just such a risk, and it might run into all kinds of problems. And so, having the big one with a track record on it, I think is the better choice here. So I'm going to go with the middle road with the SSC. All right, there we go. It's decided. Good that we are staying consistent to our. Yeah, I'm not 100% agreeing with you on this, Simon. Just because we are running a planned economy doesn't mean that all projects have to go to state-owned businesses. That's not what that means. It means that we plan the direction of the economy. We give incentive to businesses to move in the direction that we want, and we provide the necessary power grid, infrastructure, transportation, all the necessary underpinnings for the economy to be successful. So if we say, for example, we would like to focus, our primary focus is going to be mineral extraction and export in order to get us out of this. Then this is the direction that we were going. And we say we make a plan for the next 5 years and say this is where we want to be in 5 years. How do we get there? And then we make macroeconomic decisions based on that. But it doesn't mean that all the contracts have to go to state-owned businesses. But at least I made Simon happy. I'm a little suspicious about what Gus is doing here. I might have to keep an eye on that. Simon signed a certain section in the dossier and fixed his glasses. Very well, Mr. President, the contract will be awarded to the Swordfish State Corporation. No hard feelings. At the end of the day, the success of the project is what matters. Thanks, Gus. It's good to hear. I'm still... President Rayne will remember this. I'm going to keep that in mind. The company will be notified today and construction work will begin immediately after. Okay, I think we're off to a good start. My expectations are that the grand opening ceremony will be late next year. Okay. Will be a pleasure to celebrate together. For now, I'll return to my duties and visit some foreign partners in Rizia. See you soon, Mr. President. Okay, you do that, Gus. This concludes the meeting. The meeting's ended and we spent the remainder of the day attending events in Anrika. It was very refreshing to attend cultural dance events and hear the traditional soldiers' music of the region. Should we be doing this, or should we be looking at dealing with the unrest situation? And the looming war. I feel that is sort of more important at this point, but here we go. So yeah, government budget has been decreased. Has our economic stability has not yet changed, but at least we've gone. Yeah, at least things are now underway, and we can start. We might have to talk to Mr. Coronti in the next episode. That's it for me today. Thanks for everybody, and I'll see you next time.